He urgently asked Hatsuki for one favor that had been weighing on his mind. Looking flustered and tired, Hatsuki told him to stop after just one more time, sounding completely fed up. He accepted her condition immediately and promised that one last time would be enough. Standing face to face, Hatsuki warned him not to forget that she was not his girlfriend. He told himself he could handle anything, as long as he didn't let his expectations rise too high. He introduced himself as Toshiya Minato, an ordinary guy who never stood out and never looked down on others for being the same. He admitted that not long ago, he had no idea where he truly belonged. He remembered the girl beside him, the one who talked to him every day and sometimes walked to school with him, and he had quietly ranked her as the 5th prettiest in class. He wondered if confessing to her might finally change something. When he finally worked up the courage to approach her, she reacted awkwardly and gave him a vague answer that made it painfully clear things were slipping away from him. Minato stared blankly ahead, still trapped in his own uneasy thoughts. He introduced himself as Toshiya Minato and admitted that he had never really stood a chance with the girl he had once ranked 5th in class. Looking back in embarrassment, he felt he never should have judged her with something as shallow as calling her the 5th prettiest. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. A classmate suddenly called out to Minato and asked how long he planned to keep sleeping. Startled awake, he recognized the voice and blurted out Hatsuki's name. The girl cheerfully introduced herself as Hatsuki-chan and teased that he seemed awfully relieved to see her the moment he woke up. Minato jolted fully awake and cursed himself for falling completely asleep. Hatsuki asked if he had stayed up late again playing that shooting game. He defended himself by saying there was nothing wrong with games and insisted they should do sports instead, while the game was described as a hugely popular FPS title. Minato complained that she shouldn't ask him to do something like that while he was sleepy, and Hatsuki insisted she only meant moving around a little to wake him up, not that she was telling him to play, though she added that was also possible. Hatsuki looked right at him and asked if he really didn't want to spend time with her. Minato gave in and said fine, and Hatsuki immediately urged him to hurry up and go. As they walked together, he reflected that Oi Hatsuki was famous at school and known as the queen of positive people. He described her as having long, pale hair, light makeup, and a gentle but striking appearance. He kept staring at her polished appearance, pulled in by her whole stylish presence. At the arcade, Minato could hardly believe Hatsuki was hanging out alone with an ordinary guy like him. Still confused, Minato asked Hatsuki if something was going on with her friends. Hatsuki answered that her friends were around, but pointed out that he was here too, then awkwardly admitted that was true, though there was still more behind it. Minato explained that he had become friends with Aoi Hatsuki about 3 months after starting high school. Hatsuki quietly apologized to Minato, catching him completely off guard. She asked whether he had time today, and Minato was stunned when Hatsuki suddenly came up to him. Hatsuki explained that she didn't want to attend summer classes and asked Minato to help her study. Minato could only wonder why she had chosen him. He reminded himself that she had plenty of friends, and there were surely guys with better grades than him. Hatsuki pressed him with a polite plea and urged him to come on. After only a brief hesitation, Minato agreed, and Hatsuki instantly lit up. That was how they somehow ended up playing table tennis together. The two spent the time side by side, looking far more comfortable together than anyone would expect. The next day, Hatsuki asked Minato what he wanted to do, reminding him that they had gone to his place after hanging out the day before. Hatsuki said she was going to visit Momo for a while. She headed out looking casual, relaxed, and full of energy. Minato explained that their parents were so busy they usually didn't come home until late, and visiting each other's rooms had quietly become routine. He was surprised to realize she lived on the same floor as him and admitted he had never expected that. Minato called out to let her know he was there. Hatsuki appeared at the door with drinks, and Minato thanked her. She dropped down in exhaustion, and Minato started to comment before realizing she had changed clothes at home, noting that even changing could leave someone worn out. Hatsuki said lying down after activity felt great, then casually told him to make himself at home and asked if he wanted something to eat. Seeing the fast food spread, Minato wondered if eating more was really okay and admitted he had already had a hamburger. They checked the time, and Minato said 8 o'clock was fine since he wasn't that hungry either. Minato said he wanted to play a fighting game, and Hatsuki cheerfully declared she would be on his side this time. Hatsuki asked whether she should play with him or just watch, then confidently said that with her cheering him on, there was no way he could lose. Minato told her to be quiet as she accused him of always picking certain female characters, and even grabbing that item earlier for the same reason. Hatsuki pushed the point and teasingly told him to look her way if he wanted to compare. Minato turned away and bluntly said he was tired of looking, while Hatsuki pointed out that she was right there. Hatsuki casually mentioned that she had changed again, and Minato reacted in surprise and asked if that was really true. She explained that she was still a high school freshman, so of course she was still growing, and Minato quietly took that in. Minato remarked that that kind of change must be a real nuisance, saying it could get in the way. Hatsuki watched his reaction with interest and told him to stop staring since the game had only just started. As they turned back to the screen, Hatsuki awkwardly admitted she hadn't realized that would be troublesome, and Minato told her not to put it like that. Hatsuki argued that boys had it easy, while girls had no way of knowing how things would turn out, and she complained that it felt unfair. Minato asked what she would prefer, and when she told him to show her next time, he pointed out there should be plenty of room between those choices while quietly losing his composure again. Hatsuki, flushed and uneasy, wondered how he wasn't embarrassed by any of this and accused him of making people feel like they were being put on display. When Minato said he would rather see something normal, Hatsuki smiled and said that in that case, she might have to catch him while he was asleep. Minato turned in alarm and repeated her words, while Hatsuki calmly said that was right and added that the fact he seemed capable of something like that was what made him scary. Laughing, Hatsuki admitted that her jokes were getting more extreme than usual. From behind him, Hatsuki said she would rather be awake if anything like that happened, but then gave up and noted that he had escaped again. She bluntly told him that at this rate he would never rank up, and Minato immediately told her to shut up. Minato finally admitted that this was bad, explaining that he was hungry but now couldn't focus on the food, then trailed off in confusion. As Hatsuki drifted off to sleep, Minato looked down at the food and wondered what he was supposed to do with it now. Minato looked at Hatsuki sleeping and thought her sleeping face looked peaceful, then admitted to himself that she always seemed pleasant to be around. As she slept beside him, Minato nervously reflected that he had never spent time with Hatsuki because of hidden motives, even if being this close made his thoughts harder to control. He told himself it was impossible not to feel unsettled in a situation like this, and he realized he was already painfully aware of that. Looking down at the sleeping Hatsuki, Minato quietly acknowledged the thought and hesitated beside her. He remembered hearing that someone might take advantage of a sleeping person and admitted that, in other words, he could cross a line right now. Even then, he tried to reassure himself that there was probably nothing more to it. Hatsuki remained fast asleep, completely unaware as the tense silence stretched on. Minato reacted in surprise and questioned what he was doing, as the situation became even more dangerous for him. Hatsuki shifted in her sleep and let out a small murmur, jolting him before anything could happen. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Hatsuki confronted Minato directly and asked whether he had gone far enough already, pressing him for an answer. Minato panicked and apologized, while Hatsuki dryly remarked that she had never expected him to make the first move. She revealed that he had been trying to meddle with her clothing while she wasn't paying attention, laying bare exactly what he had done. When Minato nervously asked whether she was angry, Hatsuki shot back and insisted she obviously looked angry. Minato reflected that of course she would be upset after he had crossed a line, especially since they weren't dating and were only friends. Hatsuki admitted the whole thing was embarrassing and asked why he couldn't have shown more restraint, leaving Minato wondering if it really was only a matter of self-control. She shyly explained that if it were him, she might not have objected so strongly, because falling asleep had been an accident. Minato could only answer in disbelief, then wondered if she was willing to forgive him more easily than she would forgive a boyfriend. As the confusion deepened, Minato remembered that she had worn an extra layer earlier and admitted he had noticed it was gone at home, then questioned why it was missing. Hatsuki explained that she didn't feel comfortable wearing it, and the moment turned even more awkward as Minato could only stare in stunned confusion. Hatsuki pointed out that she always took that layer off whenever she came over anyway, and Minato worried that saying it aloud would only make him sound even worse. Overwhelmed by the tension, Minato blurted out that he wanted clarification and begged her directly. Hatsuki calmly reminded him that he had already noticed it a moment ago, then asked if he really wanted to bring it up again. Minato admitted in a rush that of course he wanted answers, then complained that she was suddenly turning this on him now. Hatsuki pressed him by asking whether he would seriously ask a female friend for something so personal. Minato confessed that he couldn't even ask a normal girl, and that he might not be able to ask his own girlfriend either. Hatsuki quietly asked whether he could at least say it to a friend. Minato insisted that he couldn't just keep holding himself back, while Hatsuki countered that helping with things like that was what friends were for. As the tension peaked, Hatsuki asked if he truly wanted to know, and Minato eagerly answered that he absolutely did. Seeing his reaction, Hatsuki realized he was completely serious and hesitated as the moment grew even more awkward. After a brief pause, Hatsuki finally agreed with a flustered smile, but the air between them stayed painfully tense. Minato stared in disbelief, his face lighting up with barely contained emotion. Hatsuki caught that look instantly and said his eyes were shining even more than when he got serious about games. Minato admitted that reaching the top in games was tough, but this felt even more overwhelming. He openly said chances like this almost never came to him, making everything sound somehow even more awkward. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Still unable to stop himself, Minato awkwardly asked if she could adjust her clothes a little, pushing the moment into deeper discomfort. Lying there with her face burning, Hatsuki nervously asked if he was really that happy just from seeing that, rattled by how serious he sounded. Minato answered yes without hesitation, and Hatsuki called him over, asking why he was freezing up at the worst moment. Hatsuki then told him he was barely even looking and urged him to just say clearly what he wanted. Hatsuki suddenly suggested taking a picture, and Minato was so thrown that he asked what she meant. Minato protested in embarrassment, but Hatsuki said it was only fair since he was the one asking for something so improper. Minato tried to defend himself by saying even girls would probably look if they had the chance. He nervously argued that anyone would be tempted in that situation, then wondered if saying all this to Hatsuki made him sound terrible. Hatsuki looked straight at him and bluntly asked what was supposedly wrong with looking at something private like that, leaving him even more flustered. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Minato hesitated again, and Hatsuki pointed out that otherwise it would just look like he was secretly taking an improper photo. She then asked whether anyone had ever tried to photograph her like that before, and answered that some idiots actually had pointed phones at her without permission. Hatsuki explained that they had not managed to capture anything directly, but warned that once images like that got posted online, they could never truly be erased. With open disgust, Hatsuki called those men the worst kind of scum, then reminded Minato that he was doing the exact same thing right in front of her. Hatsuki warned that if a picture like that ever ended up on the internet, it would be a disaster, and Minato instantly insisted he would never do that. Minato firmly repeated that he would never do it. Hatsuki casually mentioned that he had already seen something private from behind before, and Minato flusteredly replied that it was actually even more embarrassing from that angle. Minato pointed out that she was turning around while exposing something private, and blamed her short skirt for making it worse. Hatsuki replied that she normally wore shorts underneath, so she said it was fine. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Blushing, Hatsuki complained that it was unfair for him to be the only one enjoying this and told Minato to show her his side too, while he could only mumble back. Hatsuki told him not to get carried away and reminded him she knew exactly how embarrassing this was. Still flustered, Hatsuki admitted she had felt like she might die the moment he took a picture like that, and Minato apologized. Hatsuki remarked that it might have been better if a friend had taken the picture instead, and Minato reacted in confusion at the sudden mention of her. Minato introduced Ruka Serena as an honor student with long black hair, describing her as the most exceptional girl in their class. He reflected that a neat and talented girl like her hardly seemed like someone who would secretly be into taking uncomfortable photos. Hatsuki quickly brushed the comment aside and awkwardly told him to forget what she had just said. As they sat facing each other on the room, Hatsuki remarked that this kind of game was interesting, and Minato questioned whether it could even still be called a game. Hatsuki told him to stop acting like an elementary school girl, then teased that she had not expected Minato to be such a troublesome boy. Minato admitted he felt a little guilty for having a friend show him something inappropriate, but also said this was one way friends could have fun together. With a more serious look, Hatsuki called out to him and asked if he was still thinking about those improper things. Minato tried to deny it, but Hatsuki cut him off and warned him not to get carried away, reminding him again that she was not his girlfriend. Minato said he already knew that, while Hatsuki said she still hoped they would keep getting along well, leaving him unsure how to respond. Looking back, Minato said that playing like this with his friend had seemed like a good thing, and that was how their strange game began. Minato was asked whether he liked that game, and while one boy said his sister had been playing it for a while, another added that he had heard lots of girls were into it, leaving Minato uneasy. The boy explained that his sister had been acting strangely lately and seemed to do nothing but play, while Minato snapped that saying it that way only made him sound even stranger. A girl named Serena stepped in politely, apologized for interrupting, called Minato by name, and told him not to worry because he seemed like a good person. Minato reacted in surprise as Serena shyly introduced herself. Serena said she wanted to talk with him about Aoi-san, and after a flustered pause, Minato realized she meant Hatsuki and agreed to listen. With her hands clasped nervously, Serena said that Aoi-san had been acting unusual lately, and Minato asked what she meant. Blushing with embarrassment, Serena admitted that Hatsuki had been asking her to take improper pictures, making the mood instantly turn awkward. Minato reflected that Serena Ruka was a smart, organized, beautiful, and widely admired girl who gave off a pure and untouchable impression. After walking with him into the hallway, Serena apologized for interrupting his earlier conversation, then quickly insisted that what he had been discussing was not important. Standing stiffly with her hands together, Serena hesitantly brought the conversation back to what she had mentioned before. Serena nervously confirmed that Irie-san had really asked her to take improper photos, making Minato realize this was more serious than he thought. Minato recoiled in disbelief and muttered that the absent-minded girl had really asked for something like that. Serena explained that Hatsuki had laughed and acted like it was a joke at first, but then made it clear she was serious, leaving Serena confused about why she would ask for something so uncomfortable. Minato said he would ask Hatsuki himself, trying to convince himself it might be some kind of game, though he clearly still could not make sense of her thinking. Serena lowered her gaze and said she did not believe Hatsuki truly wanted those improper photos, insisting that she would never do something so embarrassing. After hesitating, Serena quietly asked Minato if he could do her a favor. Caught off guard, Minato asked what she wanted him to do, while Serena struggled to force the words out. Before Serena could finish, Hatsuki suddenly appeared right behind her, startling both of them with the abrupt interruption. Serena jolted in shock and let out a panicked cry as the surprise shattered her composure. Hatsuki cheerfully revealed herself, and Serena, flustered and embarrassed, said it did not matter as long as Hatsuki had them with her. Serena suddenly cried out, and Minato fell silent as he looked at her in confusion. Serena nervously called Minato by name, and argued that if clothing covered everything, then it should not matter what was underneath. The dark-haired girl hurriedly denied having nothing underneath and insisted she was wearing something, while Serena calmly replied that anything worn under clothing served the same purpose, leaving Minato awkwardly trying to keep up. Serena tried to explain her logic by saying that if a stranger happened to see it, it would only look like ordinary undergarments. She then clarified that she was talking about bloomers. The dark-haired girl explained that sports shorts never suited her, so she had looked for something else, and added that those older garments used to be sold more often. As the conversation turned more visual, Serena admitted she was unsure whether they really suited the girl, but insisted it was not something meant to be shown to others. Turning to Minato, Serena dryly remarked that since he liked that kind of thing, he should be pleased, and Minato immediately backed off and apologized. Minato admitted he had seen them, and the dark-haired girl told him it was not his fault because she was already used to Aoi-san's lack of boundaries, though she still felt that was not enough. Serena leaned in with a cheerful smile and asked if she would do it again, but the dark-haired girl quietly refused. Hatsuki moved in close and playfully told Serena not to be upset, saying Serena looked cute, which left Serena stunned and flushed as the mood suddenly turned awkward. Serena immediately panicked and called out for Aoi-san to stop. Hatsuki looked at them both and asked what they had been talking about. The dark-haired girl nervously denied that it was anything serious and said she had only been talking with Minato lately, while Hatsuki listened with interest. Hatsuki cheerfully suggested that the three of them should all have fun together, pulling both of them toward the idea. She explained that since a friend of a friend was also a friend, she wanted Minato and Serena to get along too, leaving them both caught off guard. As they prepared to enter, hesitant voices traded polite excuses, showing the awkwardness had not gone away. The moment becomes overwhelming and emotionally difficult for both of them. The house was described as an old single-story residence, and Minato remarked that he had heard the Samura family once lived in a place of remarkable status, though he was told that was no longer unusual now. The moment becomes overwhelming and emotionally difficult for both of them. Hatsuki casually said she would go get something to drink, and when tea was suggested, someone jokingly wondered why she was laughing like a rich girl. She then brightly asked Minato if he wanted curry instead, leaving him silently baffled by the idea of curry as a drink. As Minato admired how beautiful Aoi-san's room was, the dark-haired girl noted that it was surprisingly organized too. The moment becomes overwhelming and emotionally difficult for both of them. He admitted he did not know many people from school who would visit Hatsuki-san's house, and Serena remarked that he was unusually open about it as he recalled hearing something about her long ago. The thought he remembered was that there were some people from the same floor attending the same high school. Minato awkwardly said that was true and explained that Hatsuki had mentioned it back in the spring of that year. Serena asked whether they had moved there to match the start of classes, and Minato could only give an uncertain answer. Serena suddenly paused and asked Minato if something was wrong. Minato focused on the timing and asked if she had learned that in the spring, turning the room tense and quiet. Minato realized that her memory matched his and confirmed that it had been just after school started. Hatsuki brought cold soda instead and lightly asked whether he had known she had lived on the same floor before he started approaching her. Minato, still expecting tea, awkwardly admitted that he preferred soda anyway. Hatsuki told him not to complain, saying other boys would be thrilled just to be served soda, and he accepted it as it was. As Hatsuki pushed the conversation forward, Serena was left stunned and asked what they even did together, clearly worried about where this was heading. Hatsuki casually brought up an awkward detail about clothing, making the mood instantly even more uncomfortable. Serena, embarrassed but curious, muttered that those kinds of garments still felt strange to her. Minato quickly denied any unusual interest, but his flustered explanation only made it obvious that he knew more than he should, deepening the discomfort. Hatsuki looked at him and remarked that he seemed genuinely excited by the topic. Minato protested in a panic and blurted out that it was only because she had exposed Serena's clothing, making the situation even more tense. Hatsuki coolly argued that if it were really harmless, there would have been no reason to hide it in the first place. Minato instantly called her a liar and declared someone here was obviously lying, letting the accusation hang heavily in the room. Serena quietly wondered if the issue was that it simply did not suit her, and Hatsuki immediately turned it on her by asking why she had not shown it to Minato then. Hatsuki pressed Minato and hinted that he wanted to see it too, but he denied it so fast it only made him seem guiltier. Hatsuki teasingly asked if he really did not want to see it that badly, and Minato awkwardly tried to backpedal through the embarrassment. Serena timidly called out to Minato and admitted that, if he really wanted, she would not mind showing him, tightening the air even further. Minato panicked, apologized, and insisted he had not meant it like that, then snapped at Hatsuki to stop saying such ridiculous things. Serena nervously said she would even let him see this awkward side of her too, and the pressure around the table deepened. Hatsuki tried to reassure her by saying that if she was wearing them, there was nothing to fear, that the awkwardness still would not fade. As all attention locked onto the issue, someone uncertainly muttered that there was probably nothing interesting about it anyway, while Minato sat there in uneasy silence. Minato went quiet, unable to answer as the painful pause dragged on. Serena looked completely overwhelmed and deeply embarrassed, clearly struggling to endure the moment. Serena anxiously asked whether it looked strange, and Hatsuki gently told her to turn this way a little, while Minato remained seated and tense. Minato stared in shock and instantly jumped to a bold conclusion about what he had just seen. Serena, flushed bright red, pointed out that this whole situation felt incredibly strange. Hatsuki and Minato suddenly leaned in together and urged her to show more, catching her off guard with how abruptly they moved. A glance at the time made Serena realize it was already late, and she said she was heading home, while the others reacted with obvious disappointment. As Serena prepared to leave, Hatsuki raised a hand toward her while Minato also moved like he wanted to stop her. Minato quietly announced that dinner was ready. Wearing an apron, Hatsuki cheerfully told him to stop sulking and appreciate the homemade meal she had prepared. Minato hesitated and repeated the words homemade food in surprise, clearly unsure what Hatsuki had actually made. The meal turned out to be so-called homemade yakisoba and yakianigiri made from frozen ingredients, and the smug explanation insisted the homemade label was not up for debate. Minato admitted he was starving and suggested they eat, while Hatsuki urged him to hurry before the food got cold again. As they sat across from each other at the table, Hatsuki cheerfully told him to enjoy the meal. Hatsuki tried the yakisoba and said it was a new recipe, then admitted it was a little spicy but still fine for them, adding that she loved spicy food. After one bite, Minato awkwardly wondered whether normal people could really eat something like this, saying it was way beyond a little spicy. Hatsukui laughed at his reaction, while Minato, already tearing up, insisted it was far too spicy for him. Her condition becomes unstable under the full moon. Realizing he was still eating, Hatsuki suddenly protested and accused him of finishing everything, even complaining that he was taking her share too. But the very next moment she got overwhelmed by the burn and admitted she might have overdone it, and Minato immediately offered her water as she thanked him. Hatsuki suddenly asked why he had invited Serena, catching Minato completely off guard. She explains that since he seemed so interested in the topic, she assumed he would want to see it too, and Minato realized that had been her plan from the start. Minato argued that the topic was risky because it strongly implied something inappropriate. Hatsuki insisted it had only been barely visible and claimed it had been nothing more than a tiny glimpse. Looking uneasy, she asked if that meant she was not enough for him, and reminded him that he had even seen Serena in that kind of situation too. Flustered, Minato insisted that incident had been an accident and pleaded with her not to tell Serena. Hatsuki replied that there was no need because Serena probably not care much, while Minato reacted in surprise. She then pointed out that if he wanted to get closer to Serena, he should ask her directly next time instead of chasing awkward hints, and Minato panicked that a move like that would destroy their friendship. Scratching his head, Minato questioned whether he first needed to build more of a friendship, and wondered what the point of all this had been if that was the goal. As he thought it over, Hatsuki said she and Serena had not even really figured out their own friendship yet, and Minato concluded that it was not about overthinking awkward details, but about getting along with someone he believed was genuinely kind. Hatsuki hummed and said that if his goal was really to get closer to Serena, he would have to try harder than this. Minato admitted that girls like her type intimidated him, but Hatsuki flatly denied being scary at all. Hatsuki proposed inviting Serena again next time and, instead of repeating the earlier awkward plan, suggested a different kind of comparison while challenging him on whether he really wanted to win. As Minato stared too long, Hatsuki called him out in embarrassment and asked whether he could stop looking at her so intensely. Minato apologized, and Hatsuki warned that if he wanted to check something like that again, he had to ask first instead of just acting without saying anything. After a tense pause, Hatsuki awkwardly told him that if he wanted to check, he should come closer. Moving right up to him, Hatsuki pressed him for an answer and demanded to know what he would say. Minato suddenly dropped to his knees in panic and blurted out an overly direct request, even asking in the most inappropriate way possible, which stunned Hatsuki. Stunned by his own words, Minato admitted that the request had come out far more directly than he intended. In full panic, Minato begged Hatsuki and bluntly repeated the request, while Hatsuki was left reeling at how direct he had become. Flushed with embarrassment, Hatsuki quietly decided that it could not be helped. Gathering herself, Hatsuki reluctantly adjusted her shirt and tie as the tension in the room climbed even higher. Minato admitted this felt even more embarrassing than before and asked for only a quick look, while Hatsuki reluctantly gave in. Red-faced, Hatsuki drew a firm line and told him she would not go any further than that. Minato froze in shock as he repeated her condition back in disbelief. As they faced each other on the floor by the room, Hatsuki told him not to make that stunned expression at her. Still blushing, Hatsuki reluctantly agreed to it for only a moment and only a little. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Minato, equally flustered, warned himself not to lean in too close. As Hatsuki seemed ready to end it, Minato hesitantly asked for just a little longer and even asked to check the other side too, though he knew he was pushing it. Blushing heavily, Minato tried to justify what he was seeing by awkwardly praising it and insisting he was honestly impressed. After a long, painful pause, Hatsuki quietly allowed him a small amount of contact, making it clear it would be only a little. Minato went completely blank with shock as her words hit him out of nowhere. Overwhelmed and still pushing further, Minato asked Hatsuki to let him see more, making the atmosphere even tighter. Trying to keep control of the moment, Hatsuki said only a little was allowed, and despite her hesitation, she gave in with obvious reluctance. Minato moved immediately, like there was not a second to lose. Hatsuki, unsettled by how direct he was being, asked if he really intended to do it like that. In a sudden comedic cutaway, a girl panicked that she was on fire and asked what to do, only to be told to roll 3 times. The cutaway ended with the fire going out, and the moment settled into calm acceptance. Back in the room, Hatsuki reacted like she had been struck by pure embarrassment, while Minato called out to her in alarm. Minato tried to calm Hatsuki down and told her to heal herself, warning that a monster was attacking her palico. Hatsuki reacted with surprise, then praised the moment with a flustered little compliment. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Hatui explained that this game was PvP, where monsters were different from human opponents, and said that in PvP he had to deal with other players instead. As she kept playing, Hatsuki started to get it, noting that monsters had fixed attack patterns while players could choose what to use, then complained that getting hit over and over felt unfair. Minato told her to focus on dodging first and reassured her that she was actually doing it right now. But Hatsuki still panicked that she was dying and felt completely overwhelmed. Minato encouraged her by saying she had only fainted once and should try again, while Hatsuki gathered herself and said she would, though she had something to say first. Turning red, Hatsuki demanded that Minato show some restraint with his actions, while he hesitantly asked what she meant. Minato awkwardly argued that they could deal with that as much as she wanted after the game, and Hatsuki repeated his words in stunned disbelief. As they sat close together, Minato admitted he had already moved some of her clothes aside earlier because they were getting in the way, making the situation feel even more inappropriate. Hatsuki said people usually gave up right away, and Minato agreed that they only stuck with it for around 2 weeks at most. Hatsuki explained that she had been told not picking it up too quickly would ruin the mood. Looking back at him, Hatsuki said she was their leader, and if she did not play, the others would lose motivation too. Minato apologized to Hatsuki and said he would put the current situation on hold for now because he would teach her properly all night. Blushing, Hatsuki said she would not mind if he handled things gently. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Minato pulled himself together and said they should focus on the game first. Hatsuki asked if he was sure, and Minato said he was still getting used to the latest Manhwa entry, so he should teach her seriously. After a while, Minato declared that was enough for the day, and Hatsuki said she thought she could finally keep up with the others now. Seeing the time, Hatsuki realized it was already 6 and said she was exhausted. Hatsuki told him to stop bunching everything up in the middle, still flustered as she corrected him. Minato suddenly made an inappropriate plea, and Hatsuki immediately refused in shock. He kept begging despite her repeated refusals, and the moment grew even more uncomfortable as she kept saying no. Minato looked absurdly satisfied and thought asking had been worth it even after getting rejected. Hatsuki asked whether that strange request was really all he could think about, and Minato casually admitted that it was. Minato said of course not, then added that she was so unusual he could hardly compare her to anyone normal. Hatsuki asked whether his fixation on this had no limit, and Minato jokingly wondered what he should demand as payment for the next lesson. Hatsuki said she should do this as his friend, and Minato agreed that she really was a good friend. While lying face down, Hatsuki complained that the pressure had been so intense she thought she was going to fall apart, and Minato insisted nothing would change between them after this. When Minato teased that she still had not had enough, Hatsuki shyly said she did not mind, leaving the mood hanging awkwardly unresolved. Hatsuki told Minato he should be a lot more grateful to her. Minato awkwardly admitted that she was right. He reflected that no matter how many times things went badly, that same strange feeling always came back whenever Tanabata rolled around. Hatsuki quietly said there might be times when she could not be with him, and that maybe he should make more friends. Minato agreed and admitted he almost never went out with anyone. Hatsuki then suggested he should hang out with Serena sometime, instantly catching his attention. As Minato reacted, Hatsuki told him not to leave her out, asked what he had sent, then decided there was no point hesitating and they should just wait for a reply. A reply from Serena came back almost immediately. Hatsuki happily announced that Serena had agreed, then immediately demanded to know what he had written. Minato admitted that he really did want to spend time with Serena. Serena agreed to go out, but admitted she did not think it would work if it were only the two of them. Minato immediately begged Hazuki to come too, and she stared at him in surprise when he added one more request. Minato awkwardly argued that Hazuki was Serena's classmate and said they lived in totally different worlds, so going alone with Serena felt impossible to him. Flustered and panicking, Minato blurted out something foolish while trying to calm himself, and the atmosphere turned painful in an instant. Hazuki looked at him coldly and called him an idiot. Later at school, 2 boys approached Serena and asked if she wanted to go somewhere with them. Serena stopped them and reminded them she already had plans that day, adding that she did not remember promising them anything. She then turned to Minato, apologized to the others, and said she was borrowing him for the day and would return him tomorrow. As Minato walked through town with Serena, he asked where they were actually headed, but she only said there was somewhere she wanted to go, and he admitted he did not press further. They arrived at a park and stopped there while Minato reacted with quiet uncertainty. Serena greeted Aoi and Minato, then quietly admitted that waiting there made her stand out and that the place felt strange because she could feel people staring at her. They traveled by train toward the place Serena wanted to visit. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. In front of the store, Serena reminded Minato that they had talked about PCs before and said she had not been able to find a brand with the specs she wanted, while Minato said he was not that knowledgeable, but asked if she was really sure she wanted his help, and she answered that she had already written down most of what she needed. Minato told her to hurry and go in first or she would never make herself do it, then jokingly asked if she wanted his support. To Minato's shock, Serena calmly accepted and thanked him. Once inside, Serena stared around in amazement and said there were so many brands, calling the place a mountain of treasure. The moment becomes overwhelming and emotionally difficult for both of them. Serena asked whether Minato also played games on his PC, then wanted to know what parts she should get if she planned to play FPS games. Minato said that if she wanted to game, she should pick the graphics card first, while Serena scanned the shelves and remarked that there were lots of new arrivals and that some were expensive. As they compared parts, they noted that prices were higher than last time and sold out fast, discussed whether a packed case really mattered, compared a nice board 1000 with a preferred 3-slot option, admired how solid a large case looked with liquid cooling, and wondered whether practical value or visual appeal mattered more. Minato noticed that Hatsuki was making a strange face while Serena remained caught in the middle of the discussion. Hatsuki apologized for getting too carried away and worried that Serena must be bored. Serena quickly denied it and insisted that was not true at all. Minato awkwardly admitted that Serena seemed different, explaining that he was only surprised because he had never seen this side of her before, and Serena brushed it off as no big deal. Hatsuki lit up with delight and declared that her dream had come true. As they walked together with a shopping bag, Serena quietly reflected that even one of those parts could cost a lot, and that the full setup could get extremely expensive. Minato reassured her that there were cheaper versions of the same part, while she considered that in silence. Serena suddenly remembered the tea, politely apologized for her lack of hospitality, and Hatsuki immediately recognized that refined side of her again. In a casual room with a large bear nearby, Serena addressed Aoi-san and said she would make it today. Serena brought out the black tea she had bought earlier, and Hatsuki instantly guessed that this was exactly why Serena had chosen it. Serena said she would go prepare it, and Hatsuki casually agreed. As they settled in, Minato suggested that Hatsuki could have asked Serena to teach her instead, since Serena was obviously smart and ranked at the top of the class. Hatsuki answered that Serena was smart, but insisted she was not suited to teaching other people. Hatsuki explained that when someone gave a wrong answer, Serena would still tell them they were on the right track, and she added that Serena would even praise terrible handwriting. Minato admitted that he could easily believe that. Hatsuki pointed out that this was exactly why she had asked Minato to teach her instead. Minato looked confused, but Hatsuki brushed it off by saying it was nothing and that Serena was simply too smart. Hatsuki leaned in and cheerfully told him that having him teach her was just right, while he awkwardly apologized for being nothing more than an average student. As Hatsuki moved even closer and tugged at his clothes in a way that made the moment feel wrong, she told him not to sulk because Serena would need his help too, leaving him flustered and confused. Minato suddenly realized this was a bad situation and warned that they had no idea when she would come back. Hatsuki pushed back at his concern and mockingly argued that he was still reacting to it even while trying to deny it. As he protested when she grabbed him too suddenly, Hatsuki teased that he seemed worked up just from shopping with two girls and ridiculed him for it. The two froze at the same time, and Minato awkwardly tried to explain himself as the tension shot up. Serena quietly revealed that she had heard everything already, making the atmosphere instantly more awkward. Covering her mouth, Serena shyly repeated the awkward question she had overheard and admitted she actually had an answer, making the moment feel dangerously personal. Hatsuki coolly told Minato he could answer Serena honestly, while he shrank under the pressure and she mocked how stubborn he was being. Serena hesitantly asked whether the two of them were dating, and an instant denial came back that they were only friends. Hatsuki casually explained that this was just the sort of boundary-crossing behavior they sometimes got dragged into, insisting she was only listening to his concerns as a friend. Serena accepted the explanation on the surface, but her uncertain reaction showed she was still trying to understand it. Serena nervously admitted she was a little scared of getting swept up in the mood. As the atmosphere turned increasingly uncomfortable, it became impossible to ignore. Hatsuki reacted in shock, but Serena quietly said she would not mind a little involvement if that was all it was. Minato panicked and tried to stop things immediately, clearly overwhelmed by how far it was going. Hatsuki gently said Serena's name and told her she did not have to force herself if she was uncomfortable. Blushing, Serena explained that Minato was her first friend and admitted she had not known friends got involved in this kind of awkwardness. Minato awkwardly said that in a way they did get along, but Hatsuki pointed out that ordinary male and female friends usually did not do this. Minato hesitantly asked if Serena was really serious, and she quietly confirmed that she was. Flustered, Minato started comparing them out loud and let his thoughts drift in an unhelpful direction, showing he had completely lost his composure. Hatsuki immediately called him out for sounding far too pleased about it, while Serena added a troubling remark that made the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. Hatsuki told Serena she had no reason to be embarrassed, but Serena shyly admitted she felt self-conscious because she thought she did not compare to Hatsuki. As the tense mood continued, Serena pointed out that they were taking turns in a way that made everything even more awkward, while Hatsuki urged her not to overthink it. Minato apologized to Serena and nervously asked her to endure just a little longer, showing he was still trapped in the tense moment. While Serena tried to steady herself, Hatsuki bluntly told her to stop fixating on what was bothering her and focus somewhere else, making the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. By the next week, Hatsuki seemed deep in thought, clearly still caring what had happened. The spell changes her condition in an unexpected way. Minato was completely stunned and demanded to know what she had just said. Trying to laugh it off, Minato said her refusal was obvious and asked why she was suddenly taking his jokes so seriously. Hatsuki directly called Minato out, saying that lately he had been asking for one inappropriate favor after another. With a flustered but serious expression, Hatsuki pressed him further and asked what he actually thought about a girl's appearance and clothing. Hatsuki coldly dismissed Minato's excuse and made it clear that calling them maids did not justify his inappropriate interest. She shut the topic down and made him stop, showing that even she knew this had gone too far. Minato backed off, admitted he had been out of line, and promised not to ask for anything weird while he was supposed to be studying because he needed to focus. As exam season approached, the narration explained that their high school used a 3-semester system, so fall meant midterms were getting close. Minato reflected that he needed to prepare seriously this time, especially since he had been seeing Hazuki so often throughout summer vacation. He thought about Hazuki and noted that despite hating to study, she barely studied at all. He observed that she did not even pay attention in class, yet her notebooks and textbooks stayed strangely neat, while she casually complained that everyone around her was like that. He wondered if cheerful, playful people were not usually the ones who got good grades, then reminded himself that everyone was different. Minato then bluntly warned Hazuki that as the class queen, people would leave her behind if she turned out to be too foolish. As the mood shifted, he started to say that if that happened, something else would come after. Hatsuki hesitantly asked whether he would still stay with her. When Minato asked what she meant, Hatsuki quickly brushed it off and claimed it was nothing. She awkwardly tried to keep talking. Hatsuki gathered herself and seriously asked for his help again, saying she wanted at least an average score on her exam this time. Minato dryly replied that aiming for average sounded like a very low bar, then gave in with a resigned reaction. Hatsuki insisted her grades were only slightly above average and admitted there were plenty of people smarter than Minato, provoking him as they faced each other across the table. She quickly corrected herself and told him that even so, he was still the one best at teaching her. As Hatsuki pressed the point, she reminded him that he had just called her the class queen, so seeing her lower her pride and ask for help should mean something. Minato answered that friends and a queen were different things, though he admitted he did not really know how, and made it clear he did not look up to her like royalty. Hatsuki then reasoned that she and Serena were friends, but Serena was not good at teaching, leaving the point hanging as she thought it through. Hatsuki said that was fine, reasoning that even if Serena was bad at teaching, she might still feel excluded if they studied without her. She added that Serena's family was strict, so her parents might not even allow her to go out just to study, and Minato quietly understood what she meant. But when Hatsuki bluntly brought up what he had done involving Serena before, Minato immediately got flustered and denied it. Hatsuki did not let him avoid it, reminding him that he really had crossed a line with Serena the other day, and the air instantly turned tense. Even the next day, Serena admitted the awkwardness was still hanging over them, leaving Hatsuki convinced Minato had clearly gone too far. Minato worried that Serena might not actually be okay because she was too naive, but Hatsuki said Serena had talked about it in a strangely positive way, which only made it feel even more unsettling. Hatsuki abruptly declared they were done dwelling on it and needed to get back to studying, playfully calling him Minato-sensei. As they sat down together, Hatsuki pointed out that since she lived right above him, she could stay late and study without worrying about getting home, then added she would not mind doing this in a more relaxed setting. 2. She argued that otherwise he would never focus and they would not be able to study late, then pushed him to begin, and Minato reluctantly gave in. With that settled, the two finally started their study session across the low table in his room. When Minato noticed it was already 10 and cautiously asked if they had done enough, Hatsuki only looked at him in confusion. Leaning back with a tired smile, Hatsuki said they should call it there for the day and admitted she had never studied this much in her life. Then she asked if she had done well, and Minato told her he would praise her if she actually managed an average score on the test. Hatsuki puffed out her cheeks at the condition and muttered that he was seriously too strict. Minato blinked and asked when they had ever agreed there would be a reward for getting an average score, but Hatsuki brightly insisted that after enduring all that, she deserved something to look forward to. When he asked if this was really supposed to be a study session, Hatsuki casually replied that people usually went to karaoke once everything was over. Then she eagerly suggested they go to Tealand instead. Minato stared at her in surprise and pointed out that she obviously just wanted to have fun. Hatsuki pushed even further, saying that when someone skipped school and stayed at a friend's place, it was normal to hang out, then bluntly floated the idea of staying over. As Minato visibly stiffened, Hatsuki complained that he was overreacting and insisted she only meant the harmless kind of fun she always had with her girlfriend. Minato awkwardly denied it was anything like a date, then stumbled as he tried to explain what he meant. Hatsuki shyly asked if he really would not mind going somewhere with her after all. Minato nervously replied that people said couples broke up after going there, and Hatsuki admitted she knew the rumor. He reasoned that maybe it was the long waits, the crowds, the pressure to keep talking, or just that the two of them would not enjoy the theme park in the same way. Hatsuki quickly argued that staying somewhere and hanging out together made more sense anyway, since paying separately for a hotel would cost too much. Then she suggested they could just share one room with separate beds, insisting there was nothing to be embarrassed about, and Minato went silent. Flustered, Minato apologized and blurted out that she was far too casual about someone seeing her in a vulnerable state while she slept, then insisted she could not treat him so lightly. Hatsuki calmly said she did not mind, because she was used to that sort of thing with friends, then told him to decide, while he pushed back and said he could not accept a request that inappropriate. Blushing faintly, Hatsuki replied that as long as it was not inappropriate, she was willing to hear whatever he wanted to ask. Minato realized that if that was the condition, then maybe he really could ask after all, and quietly checked whether that would still be allowed.